Oscar's new neighbor by Teddy Slatter Margulies. Illustrated by Lauren Etanel. Early, early one morning, Oscar the Grouch woke up to the sound of honking horns. He poked his head out of this trash can to see what was going on. A big movie van was blocking Sesame Street. Hehehe, said Oscar. What a great traffic jam. It'll be hours before they get this mess straightened out. Oscar couldn't help smiling as he watched the movers unload a beat-up trash can. He'd never seen such super stuff. There was a fabulous French horn, some terrific tennis rackets, and a comfy-looking sofa that was almost exactly like the one Oscar had. Then out of the can popped the most gorgeous Grouch Oscar hadn't ever seen. She was just about Oscar's size, with snarly pink fur and big googly eyes. Oscar fell for her like a ton of bricks. Oscar hurried across the street to introduce himself. Hi, I'm Oscar the Grouch, he said in a neighborly way. I'm Germaine the Grouch, she said in a grouchy way. When Oscar heard that, his smile got even broader. Germaine, he thought to himself. Jeremy, for short. What a great name. Clearly they were made for each other. But Germaine took one look at Oscar's goofy grin and said, Get lost, fur brain. Bright and early the next morning, Oscar went back to visit his new neighbor. In his arms, he carried a bunch of stinkweeds and a bag of rotten apples. Oscar hid the gifts behind his back as he knocked on Germaine's can. He wanted to surprise her, but as soon as Jeremy saw Oscar, she slammed down the can. She slammed down the lid. Clang! Just then, Oscar's friends came walking down the street. When Big Bird heard what had happened, he said, Gee, Oscar, maybe it's just as well you didn't give Germaine those presents. I'm pretty sure girls like roses better than stinkweeds. Jeremy's not a girl, Oscar grumbled. She's a grouch. Well, if I were you, I'd get rid of the rotten apples. Bird adjusted helpfully. I'm sure she'd rather have candy or something like that. Cookies, added Cookie Monster. The next day, Oscar set off to see Germaine again. This time he took her a bouquet of red roses and a 2-pound tin of chocolate chip cookies. Germaine is going to love those flowers, said Big Bird. And cookies, said Cookie Monster. I just hope you guys know what you're talking about, Oscar said dutifully. P.U., said Germaine when she saw the flowers and cookies. Where'd you get this junk, hairball? And she told him to get lost again. It's all your fault, Oscar growled at Big Bird later that day. You and those smelly roses. Hey, don't blame Big Bird, said Bert. Maybe if you looked at a little neater. I think Bert has a point, Oscar. Ernie chimed in. A bath and a little fur cut couldn't hurt. I trimmed Bert's hair all the time, he said proudly, and he looked terrific. Why don't you come over to our place and we'll see what we can do with you? Promise you won't tell anyone else about this, Oscar muttered as Ernie combed his fur. Relax, said Ernie. Jermaine is going to love the new you. But Jermaine didn't seem then to like the new Oscar any better than she'd liked the old one. In other words, not at all. Yuck! Black arg! She cried. What happened to you, Fuzzface? And before Oscar could say the word, Jermaine slammed it down her lid again. As Oscar turned it away, he caught sight of his reflection in a store window. For a moment, he didn't even recognize himself. He'd hardly looked at a grouch he'd hardly looked at like a grouch anymore. What had happened to him? Oscar couldn't help wonder. He'd stopped at being himself, that's what. And all to please Jermaine. Suddenly Oscar came to his senses, grumping and grumbling, grousing and mumbling. He stomped off down Sesame Street. By the time he reached the corner, Oscar the Grouch knew what he had to do, so he turned it around and stomped it back up the street. Once again, Oscar banged it on Jeremy's can, but this time she wouldn't even come out. That didn't stop Oscar tough. That didn't stop Oscar, though. In his loudest, scratchiest voice, he proceeded to tell Jermaine exactly what he thought of her. You're grouchy, little grouch, he began, and I wouldn't talk to you if you were the last grouch on earth, he ended. The middle part was just too grouchy for words. Oscar was about to stomp off for the final time when Jermaine popped her head out of her can and gave him an irresistibly grouchy grin. Now you're talking, she said. I was beginning to think I was the only true grouch on this whole goody-goody street. That very afternoon, Oscar and Jeremy had a lovely picnic at the town dump. She brought a basket of sardine and jelly sandwiches. He brought a pitcher of lukewarm cabbage-ade. And the two true grouches, he had a grand old time. The end.